Never bring a bat to a battlefield. War it.
Dismiss!
All your dandies prance in the road with your heads full of eyeballs.
Keep yapping that big mouth while it's still attached to your bloody neck.
Ooh, I'm gonna be all up in those feet. Oh, I'm gonna just be sucking on each one of those tootsies. You can't hide them from me. No, no, no. You think you can, but you cannot. Oh no.
G'day, mates. I knew I did that with an accent. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I don't know why I did that with a weird accent, but either way. Hello and welcome. Overkill weapons in Payday 3 was something that, it was cool in general, but it wasn't really something eye-catching to say at least. Because it's one of those things where, oh wait, I have an overkill weapon, let me use it real quick. It was one of those things where it was kind of cool to have, but it's not really something you were like really using it a lot in general, because firstly you have to wait for a while to drop it off, and then you use it for a few seconds, and then done, that's it. And there was really nothing special about it. But ever since Starbase added the Overskill system, and holy shit, all of these are so damn fun to use, except for the Interceptor, which I will get into in a little bit. But either way, the Overskill system in Payday 3 is probably by far one of the most fun things they have ever added, making every single Overkill weapon completely overpowered in general. Are they fun to use? Yes, they are. All of them are good and so damn fun to use. Are they unique? Yes, they are. And I am excited to talk about them. The way I'm going to be talking about them is without their overskill in general, and as well as with how effective they are when it comes to the, if you got all of the overskill skills in general. That is a very weird tongue twister. Overskill skill system. Well, wow, I'm such a fucking poetic person. Either way, let's start off with the Mamba, the one you start off in the game. The Mamba is a grenade launcher. No shit, you have 6 of them inside the barrel. Well, not really the barrel, but in the cylinder, but either way. And it's simple. You'll shoot it and it explodes. Well, it's not an instant detonation because there's a bit of a detonation delay before the explosion itself occurs. But there's a special effect where if the grenade itself lands on an enemy or on a person, or any person in general, it will instantly explode regardless of the distance. And that's pretty much it. But the overskill system for it is the fact that with each explosion occurring, there will be 4 smaller cluster grenades coming out, dealing 0.5% of the original explosion's damage. So if one person survived, then he's not going to survive it in general because of the smaller cluster grenades. The grenade launcher is probably by far one of the worst overkill weapons in Payday 3 without any of the skill, because you're going to be losing a lot of your health and as well as kill a lot of innocent civilians. Because the explosion radius on this thing is so damn big that you're going to be losing a lot of your health, and as well as a lot of your armor. Sure, you could combine something like a blast shield to sort of try to survive some bit of attacks, but then again, you're going to accidentally lose your armor so many times that it's not going to really be worth it. It's one of those things where it's better off for you to just simply level up and never use. The power spike that comes in from the Marcom Mamba is when you have its overskill leveled at 4. Which basically makes it where you don't take any sort of damage whatsoever, which is a really good thing, because without it, you're going to be losing a lot of your health and you're going to be accidentally killing a lot of civilians. So, how good is it with the overskills? All of them. It is probably by far one of the best weapons when it comes to clearing out hordes of enemies that makes the minigun look like a fucking child's toy. And I am not over-exaggerating when I say that. This grenade launcher is something you should not be fucking around with. Because, for one, the reload speed is so damn fast when you have it at level 3. And 2, the explosion radius is so damn big if you combine it with the demolitionist skill that it makes it so damn overpowered. And the thing is, it combines well with the entire skill tree of the demolitionist. So Aftershock, Blast Shield, or Demolitionist Basic and Ace, they all work together with this. And if you combine it with Aftershock, or Aftercooked, pardon me, you are looking at a grenade launcher that is able to literally delete hordes of enemies without any effort whatsoever. And even if they do survive it, the little cluster grenades that's going to come out is going to really just get rid of them entirely. So the Marcom Mamba is one of those things where you should never be using if you don't have any of the Overskills, but you should definitely be using when it comes to hordes of enemies because of how damaging and deadly its grenade is at max level Overskill. It's basically the minigun, but that is able to literally just delete enemies at an instant, like no effort whatsoever. The minigun takes its time to kill hordes of enemies, meanwhile the grenade launcher is just instant. And the thing is, you do have some bit of mobility to it. You're able to run around, you're able to aim, you're able to do objectives, and etc, etc. It's a pretty good weapon, but it's not one of those things where you should really be leveling up the first. If you're a new player, I think the only option you have is like the Interceptor and the Marcom. But if you have the other options, the other Overkill weapons, if you're a returning player, I highly suggest leveling up the grenade launcher first because of how versatile it can be on a lot of the heist. Like Houston Breakout, on Fear and Greed, Touch the Sky, where enemies are so cluttered up together that you're going to need something to instantly get rid of them. Next up we have on the list is the HET Red Fox, as I'm only going to call it, as the anti-material rifle. Now this was the best overkill weapon in the game because of how versatile it was. Firstly, it was mainly only used for the sake of killing bulldozers because it took 2 shots to kill a singular bulldozer, regardless of the distance or how much health the bulldozer had. And it's not one of those weapons where you would mostly be using for the sake of killing enemies. You could do that, but you're more or less better off using it for the sake of killing bulldozers. But the overskill system, or the overskill itself for the anti-material, is the fact that hitting enemies on the body deals 20% of the damage from the sniper rifle itself be applied to the other enemies. So the enemies that are like within 3 meters of the person you shot, they will take some bit of damage. 20% from the body, 60% on the head. So it's basically Graze from Payday 2, essentially. And this overskill system, it's fine. It just mainly focuses on increasing the range and as well as increasing the damage of the deals to other enemies. Basically, at max level, it deals 60% damage to other enemies on the body shots and 100% damage on other enemies if you hit them on the head. So it pretty much encourages you for aiming for the head. And the thing is, it also makes it where you can penetrate through 4 or 8 additional surfaces, so you can pretty much like sit behind walls and just like snipe enemies in a much more safer space without having to expose yourself. The good thing about the anti-material rifle is the fact that you can kill enemies in a very good distance and in a very good cover without having to constantly expose yourself. And there's one skill in general that actually combines really well with the anti-material rifle, and that is from the sharpshooter skill tree being the headhunter. Yes, the very same headhunter that was supposed to replace ammo funnel. God, I wish ammo funnel and replenish gets nerfed one day because those are too overpowered, but either way. Headhunter works well with the anti-material rifle. I am not kidding when I say this. If you time it well, you can actually keep the anti-material rifle for as long as the heist can happen. That is if you can time it well, because the Headhunter has a 1.5 second cooldown before, it doesn't activate itself. But it does surprisingly work well with. The maximum amount of ammo I have saved because of this skill was like somewhere around like 5 to 7 rounds for the anti-material rifle, which is really good. So, yeah. Like I said, even without skills, this thing is very good because it's pretty much just a dozer demolisher, and it can be good to like kill enemies that are sort of like crowded up together because this thing is able to pierce through multiple enemies regardless of how many they are. And with like all of the overskill systems, you're able to penetrate through 8 surfaces, and it also increases the damage of the passive skill itself. And yada yada, you get the gist of it. It's good, but it's not really something you should. Here's the thing. I feel like, in my personal opinion, the anti-material rifle should be the last weapon you should upgrade because even without the skills, it's still a really good like overkill weapon for getting rid of dozers. It's not one of those things where you're like it's necessary to level up. It's pretty good, but it's not something you should really be focusing on. The Interceptor, I'm going to make this quick, it's just pretty much an ECM jammer, but it's only for stealth. You cannot use this on loud, which is sad, but either way, it's the only stealth overkill weapon that exists in the game. And the way that it works is that it only disables cameras for a bit of a time. And you can activate this when you have at least 25% of the overkill meter filled up, but you can fill it up to 100% to make it where it lasts much more longer. And you can only use this once. And the way that it works is it just pretty much disables cameras. That's pretty much it. That's all it does without any skills. But what makes it amazing is the fact that there's a lot of skills that really make it have a huge difference. For one, it makes it where whenever you kill an enemy, the radios will not go off, and even if the radio is like being called by the operator, if you use the overkill, you are pretty much delaying the time it takes for the pager being unanswered. And secondly, it gives the glitch protocol effect to every enemies at max level, basically distracting them. Even if you're being escorted, you will literally distract them for such a long period, because you will also get like a 50% decrease rate at which how fast your overkill meter drains. Basically, it reduces how quick your overkill meter drains by 50% at max level. And that glitch protocol effect can be a huge difference because it gives you enough time to complete so many objectives, or like save the game where it would normally go loud. Like, it saves you on so many occasions. It's basically a #1 requirement if you're someone who loves stealth or someone who only plays stealth. That's it. For loud, it's useless. That is all I can say. The minigun. Oh, there's a lot of things to say about the minigun. It's very good. It's an amazing weapon. Good for normal enemies, hordes of enemies, bulldozers, you name it. It's a very versatile weapon. It's one of those weapons where it's a jack of all trades. You have a lot of bullets in your magazine, you have a lot of power in your hands, that's it. The only complaint I can say about the minigun is how slow you are when you're using it, and they did nerf it to where whenever you're spinning or shooting the minigun, you are significantly slower, especially when you're shooting. But the passive overskill is what makes it more overpowered, because for each second you fire your minigun, you give your armor a 1% damage reduction. For some of you that don't know, your armor actually gives you a passive armor reduction. The adaptive armor gives you 5%, meanwhile the other armor gives you 25%. And the thing is, you are able to get this upwards to 90% damage reduction. And the thing is, the overskill system, or the overskill itself, is what makes the minigun such an overpowered weapon. Because at tier 1, it makes it where you gain an additional 1% armor damage reduction for each enemy you kill. And secondly, the bullshitness to it comes from the second one. If you have 0 armor plates left and your damage reduction bonus reaches 30%, you will gain 1 armor plate. You heard me right, folks. If you lose your armor and you kill 30 enemies, or you shoot enough to where it reaches 30% armor reduction, you will get free armor plates. Exactly, it's bullshit. And thirdly, as long as you're spinning the minigun's barrel, your bonus to damage reduction won't go down, because if you're not shooting, you will lose that passive 1%. You will lose that passive armor reduction for each second you don't shoot. So you have about like a minute and 30 or 40 seconds. No, a minute and 30 seconds. Pardon me, I messed up my math. So you have about like a minute and 30 seconds before you completely lose that 90% damage reduction, because it, like I said, you loses it for each second you're not shooting. And with the third level, you are able to keep that percentage as long as you're spinning the minigun's barrel. And for the fourth level, you gain additional armor damage reduction if you're wearing a 2-plate armor or less. But you get 2% additional more if you're wearing a 3-plate armor or higher. So the minigun literally encourages you to wear the heaviest armor because you're getting more resistance. It literally makes you an unstoppable force. And what makes it overpowered is the 5th level. Your armor damage reduction bonus will not go down even when you unequip the minigun, but the bonus itself will still go down normally as if you're not shooting the minigun. You can't reach 100% and take no damage. That doesn't happen, because I think there's like a limit to how much damage reduction you can get, as far as I'm aware, because even with a 90% damage reduction, you're not able to literally like take no damage whatsoever. As far as I'm aware, at least. So, yeah. Either way, this is an amazing skill. 90% damage reduction to almost every source is fucking overpowered. Especially when you're fighting against like hordes of enemies that would normally rip your armor to shreds. The minigun is just amazing. But the problem is the slow mobility. That's what's really crushing me. But for heists that makes you stay in one place a lot, like Houston Breakout, or like Fear and Greed, or like Boys in Blue, and as well as Touch the Sky, or even Golden Shark, this weapon is absolutely phenomenal for defending objectives, because you are literally just a walking tank. So, when it comes to leveling up priority, the minigun should be second. If you own the Jacket character pack, then you have access to the Sociopath. It's not something you call in, but something you whip out. As soon as you have the Overskill or the overkill meter filled up, you're able to literally whip out a bed and go on a killing spree. Your movement speed is significantly increased regardless of your armor, and you have 2 attacks, light and heavy. Light is able to kill light and heavy units. Heavy attacks mostly focuses on killing enemies that are like very grouped up together because your bat has a arc. Well, like a swing pattern, if that makes sense. And the heavy attack has a more wider and is able to hit multiple targets with a singular swing. But the thing is, the light swing is unable to kill a shield, but it takes like 2 hits to kill them. But with a heavy attack, you're able to stagger them if you hit their shield, or you're able to insta-kill them. Against dozers, it's not really that good, because it takes like multiple hits to break their armor, and as well as it takes multiple hits to literally, you know, kill them in general, because for one, you're facing off against a dozer in close range encounters. Sure, you're able to like dodge it around and move it around circles, but eventually that fucker's gonna catch up to you because of how tanky he is. So yeah, but the good thing about the Sociopath is the fact that you are unable to take any armor or health damage. Any damage you take is directly transferred onto the overkill meter itself. Without any overskill, this is like useless because you're going to be losing it very quickly. But what makes it special is how good it is, because you're able to run around and keep your overkill meter for a long period, because with its skills, for each time you kill an enemy, you restore 20% of your overkill meter, and as well as you take less damage when there's like enemies around you, and you also are immune to staggering or slowness effects, and you also gain like 5 health for each enemy you kill, and this can also be transferred into adrenaline. Fortitude also works well with this, and then finally, whenever you kill an enemy with a bat, enemies within 5 meters of the enemy killed, they will enter a panic state and miss all of their shots. Basically, this is the best when it comes to using it for emergency uses. If you're in a scenario where you're not uncomfortable like killing hordes of enemies, this is where the baseball bat comes into play, because you're able to literally destroy so many enemies, and the thing is, you're able to still do objectives even with the bat. But the only thing I can say is that you're unable to carry bags, and any bag you were carrying, you will immediately throw it away. It's one of those things where it's more focused on clearing out enemies, and as well as giving yourself a breathing room, because like I said, you don't take any damage to your health or armor. Instead, every damage you take is directly transferred into your overkill bar. So yeah, so which one should you be leveling up first? Well, if you don't have the jacket character bag, then I highly suggest leveling up the grenade launcher first as your primary, and then the minigun as second, and then the sniper rifle or the anti-materia rifle as third. But if you own the jacket character bag, I say level up Sociopath first, or the bat itself, and then the grenade launcher, and then the minigun. But then again, this is my own personal interpretation. Use whatever you're comfortable with. If I had to give out a quick description of how all of these work, it would be: grenade launcher is the best for clearing out enemies at an instant. Minigun is perfect for clearing out enemies, and as well as holding your ground, and as well as being very tanky. The sniper rifle is best to use against dozers, but is also good against using crowded enemies if you're able to land your shots. The Sociopath is better off to be used for emergency uses if you don't want to take a lot of damage, or if you want to heal yourself in some ways, or if you want to just simply go on a killing rampage and run around a lot. The Interceptor is just for stealth. That's it. That's all I can say. And which one should you be using first? That's up to you. Do you want to instantly delete enemies? Go for the grenade launcher. If you want to be able to hold your ground and tank a lot of damage, and as well as sustain a lot of damage, minigun. Get rid of dozers very quickly, but as well as kill enemies in a safer distance, and as well as behind cover, the anti-material comes into play. If you want to be able to run around and kill enemies without having to worry about taking too much damage to your armor and health, Sociopath comes into play. All of these are great on their own, and they all have their own niches. And which skill should you be using when it comes to using these weapons in general? For Sociopath, stick with something that can increase your movement speed and as well as fortitude. For Interceptor, there really isn't much. The grenade launcher, use Demolitionist. For the anti-material rifle, grab the Headhunter. The Arges, grab Tank Ace just so you can get grit for free, because you're not going to be able to refill your grit and edge because you're using a minigun. And I would highly suggest using the Gunslinger Payday, because it actually works well, because you're still hip firing it. So reducing the overall hip fire spread of the minigun would help significantly. So yeah, I hope this gave you a better understanding of how each overkill works, how you should be using it, and what they're effective at. I don't really have anything else to say besides that, so thank you for watching. Now I'm going to go and drink my 5th cup of coffee, because actually I don't even drink coffee. Why am I even lying? Excuse me. Anyway, I'm gonna go and inject myself with hundreds of adrenaline because I am literally losing myself at this point. So I'll see each and every one of you next time. Take care of yourselves, treat each other with respect, love each other, do not be an asshole to one another, and I will see each and every one of you next time. Now get out of my house. Shoo.